Welcome back to the Behavior Code. I'm Maria.
And I'm Gabriel. So, Maria, I want to start with a question. When was the last time you felt like you had to, really justify a decision you made? Like, write a whole essay in a text message explaining why you couldn't make it to a party?
Oh gosh, probably yesterday? It's this constant nagging feeling, right? You feel this immense pressure to explain and justify every little choice you make. At work, it's crafting that perfect, overly detailed email to explain why you took a certain approach on a project, just in case someone questions it. Or even something as simple as explaining in detail why you're taking a sick day, as if you need to prove you're sick enough. In relationships, it's that feeling that you need to lay out a whole case file for why you're feeling a certain way, instead of just saying, I'm feeling sad today. And online, forget about it. You get dragged into these endless debates, justifying your opinions to total strangers who have no real stake in your life. It feels like a performance.
Exactly. It's exhausting. But have you ever noticed that the people at the very top of their fields, the really successful, confident people, they just don't do that?
That is so true. They'll just say, I'm not available. Not, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't. My dog has a vet appointment, and then my cousin is in town.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're diving into today. Why successful people stop explaining themselves. It's not about being rude or arrogant. It's a fundamental code of behavior tied directly to confidence, status, and ultimately power.
I love this topic because I think it's something so many of us struggle with. So let's get into the psychology of it. Why do we feel this compulsive need to explain?
Well, at its core, it's a very human thing. It often boils down to a few key drivers. The biggest one is approval seeking. We want people to like us, to agree with our choices, to validate us. An explanation is like a preemptive strike against judgment.
Right, it's saying, please don't be mad at me, or please still think I'm a good person even though I'm saying no.
Precisely. There's also a fear of rejection. If I don't give you a good enough reason, you might reject me, my idea, or our relationship. And a third piece is about control. We're trying to control the narrative. We want to manage how other people perceive us.
That's a big one. The idea that if I just explain it perfectly, you'll have to see it my way. But life doesn't work like that.
Not at all. And what's fascinating is how this ties into perceived status. Research in social dynamics consistently shows that the person in the room with lower perceived status will talk more, explain more, and justify more.
You see that in meetings all the time. The junior employee gives a 5-minute preamble before getting to their point, while the senior executive just says, we're moving in this direction, full stop.
Mm-hmm. Over-explaining is essentially a subconscious signal that you believe the other person's judgment holds more weight than your own decision. You're asking for permission after the fact.
Asking for permission after the fact. Wow, that really hits home. It's like you're saying, I've made this choice, but I'm not fully standing by it until you sign off on my reasoning.
Which leads us directly into the dynamics of status and power. Let's really unpack that.
Okay, so how does this work psychologically? What is status in this context?
Status is, essentially the pecking order in any social group. It's about who has the authority to make decisions and whose decisions are accepted without question. And high-status behavior is economical. High-status individuals use fewer words, take up more physical space, and are slower to respond. Their time and words are perceived as more valuable.
So, explaining less is actually a power move. It signals that you believe in your own authority.
It is. Think about a classic CEO archetype. When they walk into a boardroom and say, we're acquiring company X, they don't follow it up with a 30-minute speech justifying every single data point to every person in the room. The decision is presented as a fact, not a proposal up for debate. The detailed explanation is for the follow-up memos, not for the moment of the decision itself.
Right. The explanation serves the decision. The decision doesn't wait for the explanation's approval.
Exactly. Now, this isn't just about corporate titans. You see it with confident artists, respected parents, effective leaders in any community. They operate from a place of inner conviction. Their decisions are self-validated. The explanation is a courtesy, offered when necessary, not a requirement for the action itself.
So what you're saying is that when we over-explain, we are literally handing our power over to the other person. We're making them the judge of our actions.
You are. You're creating a dynamic where you are subordinate to their opinion. The powerful move is to assume your reasoning is sound and that your decision is valid on its own merit.
This feels like a huge mindset shift. It's moving from "I hope you understand" to "I understand." And that has to be rooted in genuine confidence, not just faking it.
Which brings us to the crucial difference between confidence and approval seeking. They can look similar on the surface, but they are worlds apart.
Okay, let's break that down. Because I think a lot of people think building confidence means getting everyone to like and agree with them.
That's the trap. That's approval seeking. Approval seeking is an external game. Your sense of self-worth is tied to other people's opinions. If they approve, you feel good. If they disapprove, you feel terrible. You are, in essence, outsourcing your self-esteem.
And over-explaining is the primary tool of the approval seeker. Here are all my reasons. Please, please approve of them.
Totally. True confidence, on the other hand, is an internal state. It's self-respect. It's the belief that you can handle the outcome, even if that outcome is someone else's disapproval. A confident person is comfortable being misunderstood.
Oof, that's a big one. Let that sink in. Being comfortable with being misunderstood. We spend so much energy trying to make sure everyone sees our halo, sees our good intentions.
Right. And successful, confident people realize that is an unwinnable game. You will never, ever have universal approval. Someone will always misunderstand your motives, question your decision, or just plain disagree with you. And that's okay.
So confidence isn't "they'll all love me." It's "I'll be okay even if they don't."
That is the entire shift. It's decoupling your worth from others' opinions. Respecting yourself means you trust your own judgment. You've thought through your decision, you've made the call based on your values and information, and you're willing to own it, without needing a jury to find you not guilty of making a bad choice.
This really ties into the idea of setting boundaries, doesn't it? Because a boundary is essentially a decision you make about what you will and won't accept.
It's the perfect segue. They're two sides of the same coin. A boundary is a rule you set for yourself, and a core component of a strong boundary is that it doesn't require an explanation to be valid.
Right. Like saying, "I don't discuss my finances with friends." You don't have to add, "Because my uncle once borrowed money and never paid it back and it got really awkward." The boundary is the statement.
The moment you start justifying it, you open it up for debate. You invite the other person to pick apart your reasoning. "Oh, but I'm not like your uncle. You can trust me." And suddenly your boundary is a negotiation.
Which completely defeats the purpose. Successful people seem to understand this intuitively. Their no is just a no. Their "this is how I work" is just a fact, not a suggestion.
Yes, and it's important to talk about the fallout here. When you start doing this, when you stop explaining yourself and just hold a boundary, people in your life will react, especially the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries.
Oh, absolutely. They might call you selfish or difficult or cold because you're changing the unspoken rules of the relationship. You're no longer letting them be the judge of your time and energy.
There's a great quote. You know your boundaries are working when people who are used to getting their way with you start to complain. It's a sign of progress. It shows that you're prioritizing your own internal compass over their external demands.
And that recalibration is tough, but it's where real self-respect is built. You teach people how to treat you, and if you teach them that every decision you make is up for review, they'll review it.
So true. So, let's get really practical. What does this look like in day-to-day life? Let's run through some examples.
Okay, I'll start. The classic, saying no. Instead of, "Oh, I'd love to help you move this weekend, but I have this thing I promised my friend I'd do, and I'm feeling a little run down." Just say, "Unfortunately, I'm not available this weekend. Hope the move goes well."
Perfect. It's polite, it's firm, and it's a closed door. My turn. Making decisions without group approval. You're picking a restaurant for your birthday. Instead of a group chat with 10 people debating for a week, you say, "For my birthday, I'm going to that new Italian place at 7. I've made a reservation. I'd love for you to be there."
Yes, you're leading. You're not asking for a consensus on your own celebration. Okay, another one. Not arguing with everyone who disagrees with you, especially online. You state your opinion, someone attacks it, you just let them. You don't have to defend your position to every troll on the internet.
That one is a superpower. Not engaging is a huge power move. It says, "My peace of mind is more valuable than winning this pointless argument." It drives people crazy.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest one, maybe, letting people misunderstand you. Someone assumes your quietness is arrogance? Let them. Someone thinks your boundary is selfish? Let them. You know your reasons. You don't have to launch a PR campaign to correct every misconception about you.
That freedom is what successful people cherish. They conserve their energy for things that matter. And convincing a coworker that you're not mad at them because you didn't use an emoji in an email, that just doesn't make the cut.
So true. Okay, so for everyone listening who's thinking, I am a chronic over-explainer, please help me. What are the first steps? How do we actually stop doing this?
All right, tactical advice. Number 1, embrace the pause. When someone asks you for something or questions a decision, your impulse will be to immediately start talking. Don't take a breath, just pause for 2 or 3 seconds. That small gap gives you time to choose a concise answer instead of a rambling justification.
That's so good. The pause is powerful. My tip would be to practice using short, definitive answers. Try phrases like, "That doesn't work for me," or "I've decided to go in a different direction," or simply, "No, thank you." Say them in the mirror if you have to. Get comfortable with how they feel.
Yeah, build the muscle memory. A third tip, actively work to accept that not everyone needs to understand you. This is more of an internal philosophical shift. Remind yourself that your validity isn't dependent on their comprehension. You can be a good person with good intentions and still have someone think you're a jerk. That's life.
And that leads to the final, most important part. Build your internal confidence. Do things that make you feel competent and proud. Keep promises to yourself. When your self-worth comes from your own actions and your own integrity, you'll feel less of a desperate need for everyone else to co-sign your choices.
Well said. It's a journey, not an overnight fix. You start small. You say no to one thing without a big story, and you see that the world doesn't end. Then you do it again. It's a practice.
Exactly. Which brings us to our closing thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing to take away from our conversation today, it's this. Successful people don't stop explaining themselves because they're rude or so rude, or because they don't care about other people. They stop because they are secure.
That's the whole thing right there. It's not an act of aggression, it's an act of self-possession. They've done the internal work to trust their own judgment, and they respect other people enough to believe that they can handle a simple no or a direct decision without it needing to be cushioned by a million excuses.
It's a form of quiet confidence. The explanation is there if it's genuinely needed for clarity, but it's not offered as a default shield against disapproval. There's a quote by the author Brené Brown that feels fitting here. She says, "Don't shrink, don't puff up, just stand your sacred ground."
I love that. Over-explaining is shrinking. It's making yourself smaller to make someone else more comfortable. Standing your sacred ground is knowing your why internally, so you don't have to perform it for everyone externally.
So the takeaway for our listeners is this. The next time you feel that urge to justify, to type out that long paragraph, just pause. Ask yourself, does this situation truly require an explanation, or am I just seeking approval? Learning to tell the difference is the first step toward reclaiming your power.
A powerful place to end. That's all the time we have for this episode of The Behavior Code. Join us next time as we dive into another aspect of the psychology that drives us.
Until then, stay curious.